Over the last 3 years, we're living a golden moment in sports cars racing, something that we weren't watching for a long time. But you don't know the difference between the sports cars and endurance series we have today? Don't worry, because in this video, I'll be introducing the difference between WEC, IMSA, European Le Mans Series, and Asian Le Mans Series.
WEC, which means World Endurance Championship, is the most important endurance and sports cars series in the world. Like the name says, this is a world championship. It was created in 2012 by FIA and ACO, replacing the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup. This series has in its calendar the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the most important endurance race in the world. WEC also competes at some iconic circuits around the world, like Spa-Francorchamps, Imola, and Fuji. During its history, WEC had a lot of legendary manufacturers involved, building some of the iconic racing cars in the motorsports history, like the Audi R18, Porsche 919 Hybrid, Toyota TS050, Porsche 911 RSR, Corvette C7R, Ford GT, etc.
Today, WEC features two classes, the Hypercar and the LMGT3. Hypercar is the top class and features some of iconic brands in the world, like Ferrari, BMW, Toyota, and Porsche. It was introduced in 2021, replacing the LMP1 class, which was very expensive and there were no brands interested. In 2021 and 2022, the Hypercar class had only the LMH prototypes competing. In 2023, we had the LMDh platform joining the Hypercar thanks to Cadillac and Porsche. In 2025, there were 8 manufacturers involved, with Alpine, Aston Martin, BMW, Cadillac, Ferrari, Peugeot, Porsche, and Toyota. In 2026, Genesis will be joining, but unfortunately, Porsche will be leaving the Hypercar class due to financial issues. And in 2027, Ford and McLaren will be joining the Hypercar class.
And then we have the LMGT3 class, which runs the GT3 spec cars, but with less power, torque, and aero changes compared to the GT3 cars we watch in SRO series and in IMSA. LMGT3 was introduced in 2024, replacing the LMGT-EM due to lack of manufacturers involved due to financial costs of the GTE cars. In the LMGT3, even with brands being involved, all the teams are customer efforts without any factory support, and this class is a Pro-M, which means that bronze and silver drivers must be in the lineup alongside the professional drivers. In 2025, the manufacturers involved in the LMGT3 are Aston Martin, BMW, Corvette, Ferrari, Ford, Lexus, McLaren, Mercedes, and Porsche. Now let's introduce the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. This series is very similar to the World Endurance Championship. The differences are that the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is based in North America, has its own regulations, classes involved, and different types of the races. The series in the current format exists since 2014, when the former Rolex Sports Car Series and American Le Mans Series merged to become a unique sports cars category. IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship features in its calendar iconic races like the 24 Hours of Daytona, 12 Hours of Sebring, 6 Hours of Watkins Glen, and Petit Le Mans. And the series also competes in other iconic tracks like Long Beach, Laguna Seca, Road America, and Indianapolis. And unlike in WEC, which has only endurance races, IMSA has endurance and sprint races. In 2026, we will have 5 endurance rounds in Daytona, Sebring, Watkins Glen, Road America, and Road Atlanta. And we will have 6 sprint rounds, 2 of them on the street circuits of Long Beach and Detroit, which are a 100-minute race sharing the same weekend with the IndyCar Series. And 4 other sprint races are 160-minute, which will be held in Laguna Seca, CTMP, Virginia, and Indianapolis. And let's go for the classes. The GTP is the top category, which competes the LMDh and LMH prototypes with manufacturers and factory efforts being involved. It's similar to the Hypercar class in WEC. In 2026, the brands involved will be Acura, Aston Martin, BMW, Cadillac, and Porsche. The second class is the LMP2, which also runs with prototypes, but with no manufacturers involved and is designed for the independent teams and for Pro-Am drivers lineup. And then we have the GTD Pro class, which runs the GT3 spec cars. Like the name says, it's Pro GT category, with manufacturers involved.
We can have factory and customer efforts in this class. And there's no driver restrictions in the GTD Pro class, but most drivers who compete there are professionals. And finally, we have the GTD. Technically is the same thing from the GTD Pro class, also using GT3 spec cars with manufacturers involved. But the only difference is at the drivers lineup, with some restrictions for the professional drivers, with bronze or silver rated drivers being mandatory.
Now let's talk about the European Le Mans Series. This is an ACO series which runs exclusively in Europe, inspired by the 24 Hours of Le Mans race. In ELMS, all the races are endurance format with 4-hour races, competing in some iconic European circuits like Spa-Francorchamps, Imola, and Silverstone. However, unlike the WEC and IMSA, we don't have the LMH and LMDh prototype running in this series, with the LMP2 being the top category in this case. The classes featured are LMP2, LMP2 Pro-Am, LMP3, and LMGT3, and in all these classes, the respective champions gain an invite for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Like I said before, the LMP2 is the top category in the ELMS. We have only independent teams involved, and the lineup must have a minimum silver-rated driver alongside 1 or 2 professional drivers. Then we have the LMP2 Pro-Am, which is technically the same thing from the LMP2 category, but the only difference is that a bronze driver is mandatory. Another prototype class involved in ELMS is the LMP3. This category was introduced in 2015 and is designed as a training ground for drivers, crew members for endurance racing in preparation for the WEC and 24 Hours of Le Mans. Platinum drivers are not allowed to compete in the LMP3 class. And finally, we have the LMGT3 class, which is the same thing we see in WEC and introduced in 2024, replacing the LMGTE category.
Now, finally, the Asian Le Mans Series. It's basically the same thing from the European Le Mans Series, but designed for the Asia continent. Today is considered a winter series, in a period in which most of the main categories are not competing. Like the ELMS, all the races are 4-hour format, also being an endurance series. We have 3 classes being involved: the LMP2, LMP3, and GT. And from the 2026-27 season and beyond, the Hypercar will be introduced, but only with customer efforts.
In the LMP2 class, the rules are the same from the LMP2 Pro-Am class in ELMS. The LMP3 class also uses the same regulations from the European Le Mans Series.
In the GT class, the technical part is different from the WEC and ELMS LMGT3 class because the regulation used is based on SRO motorsports, with more power and torque and the aero parts being different. But the driver lineup rule is the same from the LMGT3 class in WEC and ELMS.
And in the Asian Le Mans Series, the LMP2 and GT champions gain an invite to take part in the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
So this was part 1 of the Introducing Sports Car series on this channel. I'll be bringing here part 2 explaining about the SRO Motorsports series with GT World Challenge and Intercontinental GT Challenge, and also about DTM and Super GT, so consider subscribing to the channel. And here, we also have other videos talking about WEC, IMSA, and SRO Motorsports with GT World Challenge and Intercontinental GT Challenge. We will see you in the next videos.